Alright guys, I'm going to go ahead and just jump right into this. This video should be twofold. It's going to be basically what do I use to carve, not necessarily all the time, but what are some of the tools and devices that I might use from time to time at least to get the job done. And on the other side of the token, it'll also be what do you really need to get started. I mean, what that's spread out on this table is totally necessary for you to start carving spoons. So we'll just go ahead and jump right into it. First off, obviously, you're going to need a piece of wood. That's fairly obvious, I would think. I generally will use anything that's 3 inches or bigger in diameter, and I stay away from the pith. I cut all that out because that will probably crack on you. Also, you're going to need, if you do templates, me personally, I like to do templates. Little coffee scoop, little pocket spoon, fancy eater. It's just easier for me that way. It takes a lot of the guesswork out, it makes it a lot quicker, and I will take my template, put it on a piece of wood, draw it out, and use my axes to get close to that shape, and then my knives afterwards to refine it. These pencils are actually awesome. My buddy Adam on Instagram, Adam Kowalski, he turned me on to these. They're Sola KB24s, and they write really, really well on wet wood, dry wood, anything. They're phenomenal. So thank you, Adam, for that. What else are you going to need? You're going to need something to split a log with, which you can use your carving axe, which I don't really personally recommend. I mean, I like to save those for the actual carving task. Anything that's going to like help loosen the head on it or something like that, I try to avoid. So I buy what's called a froe, and this is for splitting and nothing else. This does nothing other than splitting. And you use a mallet on the back or a chunk of log or whatever you have that's got some weight behind it, and crack your log in half with that, and then quarter it if it's big enough. And then you'll also need some kind of saw. I prefer to use a folding saw. It's just convenient. It fits right in your pocket if you need it to. Not a big deal. This one is a Bako Laplander. There are better saws available. But this one I'm very, very used to. I've used it for years, and you know, for bushcraft and things like that. So I trust this saw. It's not too flexible, so it's not going to snap on me. It does a good job. What else? You're going to need a carving axe or two. Me personally, I prefer Paul Kraskowski's axes. He's from Toronto Blacksmith. Check him out on his website and on social media. He's an awesome guy, very young kid, very talented. And I have a 1 pound carver, Viking style, hand forged by him, and I have a 1 1/4 pound one as well. These hold an edge really, really well. They really lend themselves towards carving. If I'm totally honest, I like the 1 pound better, even though you exert more energy that way. I'm not sure if it's the geometry or the weight, but there is something that I like about this one better. On top of that, you're going to need some knives. So what I have here is a series of Sloyd knives. 3 of these are Mora 106s, which I highly recommend. They're right around the maybe $25 range or maybe a little bit more. You can buy them already handled, like this one, which is pretty dirty. Or you can buy just the knife blank itself and put your own handles on them, which I have done with these two. This one is out of Y-E-W. This one's out of maple burl that was sent to me by my buddy Ben in Canada. I also put together this kind of little smaller pocket version of a carving knife, which I'm not a huge fan of, probably because I haven't used it a whole lot. I think I've used this on 1 spoon maybe. But it doesn't have a tight turning radius like a 106 does, because it's not quite as slim at the tip here, but it does an alright job. And then I have a hand forged knife here by a guy from Etsy named Christian. I can't remember his last name. Truth be told, I never use this anymore, and I don't know why. I remember the steel being good on it. The grip is great on the handle. It's a little bit longer, so you know, you can get some good leverage on it. I might have to give this a shot again here pretty soon. I'm not sure why I put this one away. So those are all your Sloyd knives. You only need 1 of these, mind you. I have 5 because I don't necessarily like to strop after every single session. So sometimes maybe I'll carve a spoon with this one and finish with that one, and I won't sharpen or strop until after the entire thing's done, as opposed to what I should be doing is roughing out with this, stropping it, and then finishing with it and stropping again. But it affords me some options. You're also going to need something to hollow the bowl of your spoons out with. What I've used for, I don't know, probably about a year now is these Robinwood open curve right-handed and left-handed knives. I use the righty the most, obviously, but the left-handed one lets you get to some areas of the spoon's bowl that are a little less accessible, that take a little more technique to get to. I don't use this a whole lot, but it is nice to have the option. Some people are total purists when it comes to this, and they want 3 tools to do the job. They want 1 spoon knife, 1 Sloyd knife, and 1 axe, and to heck with everything else. Me personally, I like some variety. I like getting used to different tools. I like seeing what's out there and what works best for me, which is why recently I acquired these from Temple Mountain Woodcraft, who is run by Matt White on Instagram. He doesn't have a Facebook, but this dude, man, he's got so much going for him. He's a very good carver. He carves more utilitarian spoons rather than, you know, fancy lookers. They do their job and they're made well. I actually have an open swap going with him right now. But he also handles tools from Nick Westerman. He'll order a batch from Nick, which is, you know, hard enough to get your hands on to begin with, and then he will put handles on them and offer them to the public, which to me was amazing, because it's hard to get on Nick's wait list. You know, you're waiting and waiting for a while, and then you're waiting for the tool to be made, which is the way it goes. That's not a terrible thing, but to have someone available like Matt, who is able to get these tools in bulk, throw the handles on so that you don't have to, and he already knows about ergonomics and everything. Matt's a carver too, like I said. It's really a plus to be able to have someone to do that for you. So these are Nick Westerman's faucet blades. I have a left-handed and a right-handed here for the same reasons as I have the left and righty Robin Hood's knives, which I also have some compound curve of Robin's knives as well, but I don't use those as much. But these, I'm really digging these blades. The geometries have just been so well thought out. How it's concave on the inside here for the ease of sharpening, how it's not sharp at the end so it doesn't snag, and just that contour is absolutely perfect for the type of spoons that I do, which are primarily Swedish. So yeah, I would absolutely suggest, if you can afford these and if you can get them, get them. You will not be disappointed. And the same with Robin's knives. Robin makes really great knives, and I don't know how he manages to do this on a production basis, like mass production. But the steel is very good. It's very hard, so you don't have to maintain them that often, which is nice. And Nicks are kind of the same way. Nicks are a little bit softer, which has its pros and cons as well. It really depends on what you're looking for, to be totally honest. And if you're new at spoon carving, you probably don't know yet. So there might be some trial and error involved. You might have to ask some questions in some Facebook groups or get a hold of some other greenwood workers. Ask around on Instagram, find out what people are using, what they like and don't like about them. But that leads us right into what do I use to maintain my blades. And I've actually done a video on part of this, basically just strapping for the most part and maintaining your straps. So basically this is what I will use here. I will use 3 straps with 3 different compounds. I never use multiple compounds on one strap. That's just a personal preference. I suppose you can, but I just don't. So I use the Dialux Orange, or Dialux Vornex they call it, the Dialux Blue, and the Dialux Blanc, which is white, in that order. If my blade's pretty rough and needs a really good strapping, that's the order I'm going to do it in. I'm going to do the orange, blue, white. And I use them on this dowel strap as well, which admittedly I do use 2 different compounds on this, just because I don't have more than one dowel strap. If things get really bad, which does not happen often, I will bust out some ceramics. These actually need to be cleaned. I have a ceramic rod for the inside of hook knives, which you would use in this kind of fashion. And I have a flat Spyderco double stuffed that works for my Sloyd blades as well as touching up edges on other things too. So like I said, it's not often that I have to use these, but it is nice to have them there because I don't want to be strapping for, you know, 4 hours solid just trying to get a little micro ding out or a little nick. But beyond that, I have these sandpaper slips and straps here, which are numbered so that you know what order to use them in. Obviously the lower the number, the more aggressive the sandpaper on it. These come from Sean Hellman's website, which is woodlandcraftsupplies.com, and I've been using these successfully for, I don't know, over a year I think, and these are a great option for when you want to, you know, if if this isn't doing it, if just doing ceramic or just strapping is not doing it and you need something even more aggressive, then this is definitely the way to go. And I can't remember offhand what grits these are, but they absolutely do the job. And I've had times where I've dropped my axe before, bit facing down, and I've said a couple swear words, but Sean's really simple kit here has allowed me to spend maybe a half an hour or so reprofiling the spot that got messed up and totally getting a mirror finish back on my axe again. And then there's the obvious, this was in another one of my videos too, this is for cleaning your straps. So this isn't everything that I've ever used, it's not everything that I currently use, but for the most part, this is what gets the job done. Truth be told, I don't have to use these a whole lot. I don't have to use these a whole lot. I will usually use both of my axes. I will start out with the lighter one, and then once I feel myself getting more tired, I find myself gravitating more towards the heavier 1 1/4 pound carving axe. Sometimes I will totally forego the fro, and I have another axe that's just pretty much for splitting. I don't use it for anything else, and I might just use that, and I might wail on the back of the axe with, you know, a log or something like that to crack a log open if I'm feeling lazy. So the fro is not even necessary. So what I'm trying to do is kind of get down to what do you actually need. So we'll put this away too. You don't need 2 axes. You don't need all these straps. To be totally honest, if you find one good strap and one good compound and something to dress that strap with, that's all you need. So that kind of puts us here. You don't need all these Sloyd blades, so we can put that one away and put this one away and this one and this one, which gives us 1 Sloyd blade. You need 1 spoon knife. So I would probably, if I had to choose one at this point, because I have so much experience with it, I would choose the Robin Wood open curve right-handed one, alongside my Mora 106, which would make it so that these are kind of obsolete. I do recommend having something to cut the ends of your logs off with if they're too long, or create stop cuts with if you're a little bit newer at carving. Then you'll need a piece of wood. Some people don't do templates, and they don't do pencils and all this other stuff. Some people are more creative than me and a little more artistic, I suppose. So that's okay. So that brings us down to 1 saw, 1 axe, a strap and some compound, something to clean your strap with or maintain it with, 1 straight blade knife or Sloyd knife, 1 spoon knife, and a piece of wood. That's really all you need to carve a spoon. And some people might even say you don't need all this. Like, I know John Mack, who runs Spoon Carving First Steps, which is a great spoon carving group on Facebook. John is able to completely omit the spoon carving knife as well and use just a straight bladed knife, one of the ones that he makes actually, to do the inside of the bowl as well. It's a really, really cool effect. So if you get a chance to look that up, check out John Mack's spoons that don't require a spoon knife. In addition to that, there's something I've been kind of toying around with lately, which is called cull-rosing, which involves making a shallow cut with a very small knife that is broad, making a shallow cut in a certain design in a piece of wood, and rubbing cinnamon into it, which is basically like a tattoo for your carving. And as I'm not super artistic, I got plenty of ideas, but I don't draw really well. I'm limited to what I can do right now, but I'm getting there. As of right now, like I will grab a spoon right now. I put my maker's mark on the back of all my spoons. Hopefully you can pick this up. You can kind of see it right there. That's just some basic cull-rosing. It's something that you can do to say, hey, this is my spoon, I made it. It gives you a little pride in your work too. Anyways, that's cull-rosing, and I'll follow that up with oiling. Everyone asks me, what kind of oil do you use? I have multiple finishes that I can use available, but this is what I use 100% of the time, unless somebody says, hey, I want a spoon and I don't want you to use walnut oil, which has yet to happen, by the way. There's a common misconception that if you have a nut allergy, you know, walnut oil on a spoon is going to kill you, which if it's not polymerized, I guess it could probably make you sick. But walnut oil polymerizes or turns into like a food-safe plastic alternative. So once this is solidified, I don't see how that could actually hurt you. This is an open debate in lots of groups and among lots of people, so we won't really get into that, but that's my 2 cents on it anyway. The brand personally does not matter. As long as it says 100% pure walnut oil on the ingredients, which, let's see here. Right there. 100% pressed refined walnut oil. That's it. There's nothing else in there. As long as it says that, you're good to go. Personally, I prefer the Mahoney's brand. I've used, I think, 3 or 4 different brands now. Mahoney's is a little more expensive, but it is good stuff. I don't know what I like better about it, but I like something better about it. But then after I will oil my spoon, I'll put a light coat of oil on it. Sometimes I'll do this before, sometimes I'll do it after. I will burnish my spoon, which is basically just taking a piece of antler that is highly polished, I mean to a mirror finish really, and just rubbing the ever-living heck out of all the surfaces on my spoon, with the exception of the bevels. And this will give a really nice sheen to your spoons. So that's the other thing that you can use. Is oil necessary? Absolutely not. Some people decide to go completely no finish on their spoons, and they do just fine that way. I do find that it adds a layer of protection. It gives a better sheen personally. It helps make a better spoon in my opinion. But again, this is what you're looking for. Your piece of wood, your spoon knife, a Sloyd knife, your strop compound, and something to maintain your strop with, 1 carving axe of a weight of your choice. This will be different for a lot of people. Some people might prefer 1 pound, or some people might want something aggressive like 1 3/4 pounds or heavier, and some kind of saw. That is it. That's all that's totally necessary.